Is it a national or a state one?
I think it's national.
Because they have like Texas Rangers there. They have like their own security.
Let's look it up when in doubt. State.
The stupid city hall, they wouldn't like let people walk in there.
Well, it might be scary reasons.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. First, we have approval of the agenda. There are two amendments to the agenda. We will vote on the inoperable vehicle ordinance, which will later become 9D. We'll also vote on the grass and weeds ordinance, which will later become 9E. For the folks at home, we don't usually vote the same meeting as the public hearing because it has the appearance of an initiative being on the rocket ride to approval. However, staff needs approval because there's a backlog of cases that need to be addressed through these ordinances. Also, we have a closed session. Dean, do you want to read the citation?
Yes, it's going to be paragraphs 5 and 8 of subsection 2.2, 3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Please join us for a moment of silence, and Councilmember Javed, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is anyone signed up to make public comment? Okay. Is there anyone who is not signed up but who would still like to make public comment? Okay, I have just a few words to say. Governing body, you will find before you a small pamphlet on bike, pedestrian, and driver safety. This was given out at the presentation given by VDOT at the last NVTA meeting. It would be helpful to have these placed for residents to read and to take, so I've asked Lena to follow up and get more so that we can put them out for the public. Okay, moving on to the public hearings. 4A is a public hearing for a school board appointment. I declare the public hearing open. Our school board applicant is Mr. James Cummings, who was interviewed on April 25th. Mr. Cummings has already received a letter of support and recommendation from Ms. Angela Owens, who is the principal of Woodbridge Middle School. Are there any governing body comments? Okay, hearing none. Is anyone signed up to make public comment regarding the school board appointment? Okay. Hearing no one and seeing no one, do we have a motion to close?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. The vote will occur June 6th. Okay. 4B is a public hearing for inoperable vehicle ordinance amending city code. I declare the public hearing open. I believe we have a staff.
Good evening, Mayor, everybody. I prepared this ordinance for staff. I don't know if anyone from staff is going to make a presentation or not. If not, I'm willing to discuss the ordinance.
Go ahead, there's no presentation from staff.
Okay. So you may remember about 11 months ago, you adopted an ordinance for inoperable vehicles that had some fees associated or fines associated with it, and those civil fines turned out to be a little bit unworkable because of the timeline required. Basically, it was well over a month before anything happened, and the person could always just go in and move it, and we'd still have the same issue. Now, this one here has been drafted, still consistent with the enabling legislation of Section 15.2-904, but it also takes in some best practices from neighboring jurisdictions. So now, basically, if there's an inoperable vehicle, the city manager or his designee sends a notice, and within 10 days, if it hasn't been moved, then it can be towed. And then another notice goes out, and within 7 days after that, we can sell it. And then we can go ahead and apply the amount we received towards the city's cost, and anything above and beyond what we received from the sale then becomes a personal debt to the owner, or it can be a lien can be placed on the property from where it was taken. Now, we did also add in here, even though it's not required by Section 15.2.904, we added a requirement that staff has to seek an administrative warrant to go on the property to remove the vehicle. They didn't feel comfortable going on the property, even though it's authorized. So that's the big difference, is just to speed things along and to uncomplicate it. And so I'll take any questions if you have them, please.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Comments or questions from the governing body? Yes, ma'am.
So Dean, you said neighboring jurisdictions. Which jurisdictions have a similar ordinance?
Well, the main one is Fairfax City. I usually go to Fairfax City because it's a well-run city, and their laws tend to be vetted very well. Most of the other ones are a little smaller than us. We are one of the jurisdictions that is authorized to do this. So I typically go to some of the inner ones there. This one here, I say other jurisdictions, is primarily Fairfax because they've had this in place for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Any other more
Yeah.
comments or questions? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Dean. I got a question for the definition of shielded. Would like a car cover or like a tarp over the vehicle be considered shielded?
So we had this discussion the last time, and I specifically left that out because that's not considered to be shielded in other jurisdictions. Now, if you want to make it shielded again, then that's fine. But we do allow for 2 vehicles that are being worked on or repaired. So one of them is being repaired or renovated. The other one can be kind of the parts vehicle, if you will. Both of them are allowed on the site. Anything, above and beyond that, I mean, if they just put a tarp over it, is that really removing the eyesore? It's not my call, it's your call. And we had this discussion last time, and everybody did decide to put in there that having a tarp or other cover over it is sufficient. I don't know if that is in your mind or not. I'll let you make that decision.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was just considering those homeowners that may not have a garage or a carport, and the only way to shield it would be to cover it up. I don't know what we decided last time to include it or not. I don't remember what the governing body decided, but let's go open for discussion, I guess.
Any other comments or questions? No? Is there anyone in the public who would like to make public comment? Yes, please. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hello, I'm Michael Cummings, 246 Manassas Drive, Manassas Park. My question and or comment would regard, what about people on vacations? Specifically, a lot of people travel for about 30 days if they're going out of country. How would that be handled if they don't move their vehicle? And let's say they do put a chalk mark, because I know that's a very popular thing. And how would you handle that? Or families that go on vacation for about 10 days? Or for 14 days, which is a popular thing as well. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Dean, do you have an answer for that?
Well, I mean, the timeline we're giving them is to rectify a violation of the law. Technically, you're supposed to know the law, so this would just be a notification that we're going to do this. The way it's written right now, after 10 days it gets towed, and after 7 days after that it gets sold. So if you're gone for 30 days, yeah, it would be sold by the time you got back.
So it doesn't work.
No, but it's also 60 days on the ordinance, right? 60 days would be considered inoperable. and enforceable at that point.
Well, yeah, there's the definition of an operable vehicle, right? So the definition of an operable means that it's, let's see, it says for a period of 60 days or longer, it's been partially or totally disassembled. So, you know, if you're leaving for 30 days and you're leaving a disassembled vehicle on your driveway, I don't know if you can expect that the city's not going to do anything during that period. And you don't have any license plates or a valid inspection decal. I mean, any one of those things can qualify as an inoperable vehicle.
So let me get this straight. Just because someone goes on vacation does not mean that their car would still qualify for being considered inoperable. It would have to have other qualifications rather than just sitting in the driveway? Is that what you're saying?
No. There's three things here that define an inoperable vehicle. One is it's not in operating condition.
Okay.
Two, if for 60 days or longer, it's been totally disassembled, and there's defined there where you remove the tires, wheels, engine, or other essential parts. Or there are no plates, no valid license plates, or invalid inspection decal. And that's a state inspection decal. So if any one of those three conditions are met, it's an inoperable motor vehicle. And if the city manager is made aware of this, then he'll notify the property owner and the owner of the vehicle. And if it's not removed or rectified within 10 days, it gets towed. And then 7 days after that, it is sold.
Okay. Do we foresee a problem here?
No, I mean, our staff usually likes to make contact with residents. We try to inform them first of what's going on. So we have violations now going back more than a year now that we haven't taken to court because we're still trying to get this going. So there's a backlog. We're not going to take every case to court right now. It's going to be scaled over time. But we like to make contact. Where this is really helpful is there's residents that completely dodge us, right, and completely ignore the city. This gives us a tool to go in there and get it addressed.
Okay,
But
thank
again,
you.
our goal is first to always educate.
A bit-
Our goal always is to educate our residents
Right.
versus being punitive.
No, we always try to educate rather than to be punitive. Absolutely. Any other comments or questions?
And
Dean, did you want to add to
I have
that?
one other comment. Yes, I did. I also want to point out the state law reference at the end. I have 15.2-904, but it's also 15.2905. That's not in the version you have there, but it is in the version that will go to the Muni Code, or Muni Code, I'm sorry.
Okay. Councilmember Javed, did you have a question or comment?
Oh, yeah. My second question was regarding the trailers. And I apologize if this question, I don't own a trailer, but do they need a license plate?
Yes, and they need to be inspected as well.
Inspected too?
Yeah.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the governing body? Okay. Is there anyone in the public who would like to make public comment? Okay. Seeing no one and hearing no one, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. We will vote on this later. Moving on to 4C. 4C is a public hearing for an ordinance requiring mowing of grass and weeds adjacent to sidewalks. I declare the public hearing open.
I believe that's me again, unless staff has someone there, but assuming they don't. This here just adds the area adjacent to the sidewalks to the area that property owners are required to mow. Right now, we have kind of an unusual situation where they'll mow their yard, and they'll leave the grass right next to the sidewalk longer than the 10 inches. And that is something we can regulate under state law. It's 15.2.1115 allows us to require landowners to maintain that area. We do this already with sidewalks having to be cleared of snow and ice, even though it's not on their property. They're required to do that. So this is just requiring them to make sure the area around their property is nicely maintained. It also points out that one notice is all that's required. So that is something also that's within the enabling statutes. So we shouldn't have to go in there and give a notice every single time so that they leave it longer than 10 inches. We notify them, we have to mow it. We shouldn't have to go and tell them again. They've already been notified once that growing season.
Okay. Comments or questions from the governing? Yes, ma'am.
Really quick. So Dean, what I've noticed time and again is the side of the road that doesn't have sidewalks, but they have the curbs, that sometimes the weeds on the curb side are up to 10 inches. Does the code allow for that, or does the code only restrict to sidewalks?
Well, it's actually the way it's written is it's between the property line and it says on any portion of the adjacent street right of way between the paved area of the street and the subject property line. So that would take into account those areas where they don't have sidewalks, and it includes the areas adjacent to any sidewalk. So if there's no sidewalk, they still have to maintain it up to the paved area. If there is a sidewalk, they have to maintain all the grass on either side of the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Comments
You're
or
welcome.
questions? Comments or questions? Yes, go ahead.
And do we establish a fine structure for this?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
A fee for not, failure to comply?
Oh, yeah, so we will go and we will cut it, and then it becomes a lien on the property. Now, as far as the remainder of the code that has not been changed, bear with me a second, let me go ahead and pull that up. The penalty is $50 for the first violation and $200 for each additional violation within a 12-month period.
Okay. And will this bill be?
And the total amount cannot exceed $3,000 within a 12-month period, and that is the current city code.
Would the bill be, mailed or posted to the owner first before establishing a lien? For give them an ability to pay it off first?
Yes.
Well, yeah, they always have the right to do that.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Any other
Well-
comments or questions? Darren? No? Any follow-up? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving on to 5A. 5A is recognition of Mr. John Evans for his outstanding service to the city. Whereas the governing body of the City of Manassas Park are extremely grateful for the great service and support provided by Mr. John Evans during the transition to the new City Hall. And whereas the governing body desires to recognize Mr. Evans for his long distinguished career as a police officer with Manassas Park for 16 years, and subsequently as our police chief for 17 years. And whereas Mr. Evans repeatedly answered the call to serve as a part-time project manager who helped the entire effort to plan and move city operations from the old City Hall to the new City Hall and the Blooms facility. And whereas Mr. Evans managed numerous complex change orders post-construction to ensure City Hall is completed to the intended function and design. And whereas Mr. Evans selflessly agreed to serve as interim chief operations officer for the city during a critical transition period overseeing special events, communications, emergency management during the search for a new chief operations officer. And whereas Mr. Evans continuously goes above and beyond his part-time status in order to ensure the city is successful across numerous projects. And whereas the city would not be able to maintain steady-state operations without his selfless service and leadership. And now therefore be it resolved that the governing body hereby thanks Mr. John Evans for his hard work and dedication and recognizes his extraordinary efforts in leading the efforts to move the city to a new City Hall and the Blooms facility, as well as serving as the interim chief operations officer. Be it further resolved that Mr. John Evans is awarded with a Performance Spotlight Awards certificate for his outstanding service by the governing body and signed by both the mayor and the city manager of Manassas Park. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Is Chief here this
He's not here, but we'll give it to him.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 5B is a resolution recognizing the Fire and Rescue Department Honor Guard. Whereas the governing body of the city of Manassas Park are extremely grateful for the great service provided to our community by all of our employees, and whereas the governing body desires to recognize outstanding performance of our employees as they demonstrate the acts of professionalism and compassion, courage, and/or are recognized by residents and/or partners within our community and region for their outstanding work. And whereas the actions of Fire Medic Roger Robinson, Fire Medic Haley Tretrick, Firefighter Braden Barrett, and Firefighter Craig Phibbs are recognized for becoming members of the Fire Honor Guard. And whereas they are responsible for reestablishing the city's Fire Honor Guard to proudly and professionally represent the city of Manassas Park. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing body hereby recognizes the excellent efforts of Fire Medic Roger Robinson, Fire Medic Haley Tetrick, Firefighter Braden Barrett, and Firefighter Craig Phibbs for going above and beyond job requirements and duties to proudly represent the Manassas Park Fire Rescue Department. Be it further resolved that Fire Medic Haley Tetrick, Firefighter Braden Barrett, and Firefighter Craig Phibbs are awarded with an Employee Spotlight Award certificate signed by both the mayor and the city of Manassas Park. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Did you- Go ahead.
We need pictures.
Yes.
So the first member would be the gentleman that got the honor guard started. Like I said, back in 2000, we had the honor guard, it fell apart as everybody left the department. Mr. Robinson had some ties to the Army National Guard back in the day. He immediately just took this on himself and said, we're gonna get this back together. Roger and Miss Haley Tredick went to class in 2022 at the National Honor Guard in Pennsylvania. Last year, this year, a month ago, we had Mr. Barrett and Mr. Phibbs go. And when we talk about Mr. Phibbs, and we need to go story real quick. Sarah said this is a proud moment for our mama, for her. As you know, Craig used to work at our Signal Hill Water Park as a teenager for Sarah. So very happy to see him back in the city.
Oh, that's great.
So the first spotlight award is for Roger Robinson. The next spotlight award is for Ms. Haley Tredick. We'll see you again momentarily.
Don't go too far.
Next is Braden Barrett. Last but not least, Mr. Craig Phibbs.
That's fantastic. Chief, just a couple questions. So how will our honor guard be used? How does, I'm not sure the process is, or how does that, in any event that the city has, or how do we employ
So,
them?
any event the city has, or any special requests we get from other jurisdictions around the area. We have had a funeral at Warren County where a fire chief passed away. They requested the honor guard to be there. They went up there. We got immaculate reviews about how great they looked, how professional they were, and
They're great.
it's awesome. So I will tell you that I believe, if I'm not wrong, there's a couple of police officers that have went to the academy, and we're going to start training together. So this will become a public safety event.
Oh, I love that.
So we're going to represent the city very well.
Excellent. Thank you.
I hope to see you all at a Nats game.
Good. That's game.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Let me know, and I'll be in the crowd screaming for you.
We're standing behind him. We're going to do a group picture
Yeah, we should.
in front of the
Yeah.
dais
Yes.
here, and let us come stand behind them. We'll stand up here, they'll be down there.
Yeah, we stand back here.
Maybe let's put the chairs behind us.
I agree.
Can we stand next to them?
Move in, move in, move in. Oh, they're putting gloves on. See, we need to get gloves.
You miss those days, don't you?
You're in the middle.
Stagger so you can see everybody. You're going to ask GB to stagger so you can see your faces.
That way?
Sitting in the thunder.
Come back. All right, Tony.
One more. One, two, three.
Okay, moving on to 5C. 5C is a resolution recognizing fire medic Haley Tetrick and Carlos Solsol for their outstanding life-saving efforts. Whereas the governing body of the City of Manassas Park are extremely grateful for the great service provided to our community by all of our employees, and whereas the governing body desires to recognize outstanding performance of our employees as they demonstrate the acts of professionalism and compassion, courage, and/or are recognized by residents and/or partners within our community and region for their outstanding work. And whereas the actions of fire medic Haley Tetrick and firefighter Carlos Solsol for delivering quick and prompt life-saving actions should be commended. And whereas they were directly responsible for saving the life of a 2-year-old. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing body hereby recognizes the excellent life-saving efforts of fire medic Haley Tetrick and firefighter Carlos Solsol on the morning of Friday, April 14th, 2023. Be it further resolved that fire medic Haley Tetrick and Carlos Solsol are awarded with an Employee Spotlight Award Certificate for their outstanding service delivery by the governing body and signed by both the mayor and the City of Manassas Park. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Is there a presentation? Okay.
Okay, yeah, you can do that. Just before that also, not just to thank the firefighters involved here, but there was also employees of DSS and Parks and Rec who were involved with the caring of the children involved, but we didn't want to list their names because of the privacy issues there with the care for the child, but I wanted to thank them as well, even though they're not being recognized this evening.
So the first name we'll recognize for that call that morning would be the paramedic in charge, which was Tammy Trey. She's not only a member of the honor guard, but she's one of our lead paramedics there. And that morning, she took her duties to the extreme that morning, so extremely proud of you. And her driver that morning was firefighter Carlos Soul. Carlos cannot be with us tonight, so we'll make sure he gets this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. 5D is a resolution of remembrance and recognition of a late Manassas Park City Library employee, Jason Peters. Whereas the governing body of the City of Manassas Park are extremely grateful for the great service provided to our community by all of our employees, and whereas the governing body desires to recognize outstanding performance of our employees as they accomplish important projects, innovate solutions, and/or are recognized by residents and/or partners in our community and region for their outstanding work. And whereas Jason Peters started with the library as a library volunteer in early 2021, became a part-time Library Associate 3 in late 2021 for LS&S, and was promoted to a full-time Library Associate 3 in 2022. And whereas Jason performed his duties with the highest care and consideration for community of Manassas Park, and whereas Jason approached every task with a positive and humorous attitude, which often boosted staff morale, Jason's ability to find inner peace provided a safe and calming space for both patrons and staff. And whereas Jason was a valuable part of the library programming staff, assisting with the creation and implementation of library programs such as Storytime, Summer Reading, Worry Less, Color More, Library Golf, and Adult Education. And whereas while Jason's workload was never ending, he was still always willing to step up to help other staff, cover hours, and change his schedule as needed, and was always team first. And whereas Jason passed away on March 5th, 2023, and whereas Jason's humble personality and dedication to his family, friends, co-workers, and the library should be recognized and celebrated. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing body hereby recognizes and honors the great service and accomplishments of Jason Peters to the Manassas Park City Library, as well as honoring his life. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. 6A is a proclamation establishing May 19th, 2023 as Bike to Work Day in Manassas Park, and it is sponsored by Vice Mayor Mensing. Whereas bicycle commuting is an effective means to improve air quality, reduce traffic congestion and noise, and conserve energy. And whereas bicycle commuting benefits both employees and employers through better employee health and fitness, reduced commuting, parking, and healthcare costs, lower employee absenteeism and turnover, and increased employee productivity. And whereas increasing numbers of businesses have installed bicycle parking and other commuter facilities to help employees and customers commute by bicycle. And whereas May is National Bike Month, as established in 1956, to increase public awareness of the healthy benefits of bicycling and promote bicycle safety. And whereas the City of Manassas Park encourages employees to use alternative forms of transportation to arrive at work, now therefore be it resolved that the City of Manassas Park proclaims Friday, May 19th, 2023 as Bike to Work Day 2023. Do we have a motion?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Vice Mayor Mensing, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, this Friday from 6 to 9 at our VRE station right here, I'll be hosting our Manassas Park Bike to Work pit stop. So come by, bring your bikes, You can bike to work or before work. For those of you who work from home, we'll have refreshments, T-shirts for the first several people who show up, coffee, water bottles. It'll just be a fun time. And if you're not going by Manassas Park, there are pit stops all over Northern Virginia, DC, and Maryland. So go and look that up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to 7. Consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of May 2nd and May 9th, 2023, and approval of an ordinance recognizing employees of the City of Manassas Park for 5, 10, 15, and 20 years of service. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 9A. 9A is regarding on-call engineering services agreements.
Not sure where Calvin went off to. This is his agenda item. But for years, we've been dependent on just one contract. That's with Bowman for on-call engineering services for the city of Manassas Park. And what that's resulted in is just we're kind of at their mercy for pricing. And I'll turn over to Calvin when he gets up here. But what this essentially does is we're going to start adding multiple engineers to be on contract to make sure we maximize price efficiencies and also capabilities. All of them have unique capabilities, like AdTech has some good architectural capabilities that we're going to leverage for the future community development building, perhaps even the City Hall Annex. Christopher Consultants has some arborist services. We've been looking for that as well. So just some added capabilities along with just more competitiveness as well.
Good evening. I apologize. Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development. So we had issued a RFP for on-call services, I believe, back in 2014. We had acquired 3 separate firms that were working as on-call city engineers. Those firms were AdTech Engineering, Bowman Consulting, and Patchouli Simmons and Associates. Patchouli Simmons and Associates, shortly after we entered into an agreement with them, became Christopher Consultants. So Christopher Consultants and AdTech Engineering were both existing on-call engineers until their contracts expired. We issued another RFP for on-call engineering services in fall of '22. Firms began responding. We gathered all of their information, created a scoring sheet, scored them all, and then started calling the references of the top scoring firms. And so at this point, we've been gathering prices, entering into the competitive negotiation stage with their price list. And as Laszlo was speaking to, we have recommended Christopher Consultants, which is being bought out by IMEG. But Christopher Consultants and AdTech, because of their pricing that they submitted immediately, and they were the first 2 to submit their pricing to us, and their prices were very competitive when we started receiving the other prices. But we have worked with them in the past, so they have that one great reference going for them. And they also tick that box that was one of the criteria that said how used to dealing with a similar jurisdiction of a similar size are they? They check that box for sure. They're very used to us and the type of requests they get from us. So staff is happy to recommend AdTech Engineering and Christopher Consultants for on-call agreements with the city. Our last on-call agreement was with Bowman. It expired on December 31st, 2022, so we're without on-call engineering services, which means that anything that exceeds a certain amount stipulated by state code has to require an RFP. Those are very time-consuming, take up a lot of staff time. It's a very difficult process. This is by far the most efficient way for us to achieve on-call services. And the reason we do multiple firms, we will be bringing more firms forward, and we told all of them this in the pre-bid conference, is that we like to issue firmettes. You know, we like to see who can do it the cheapest and the fastest amongst firms and keep them competitive. You know, it's when you get down to one on-call firm, those prices can go up per the amount stipulated in the agreement year after year, and you're not vetting your prices and really until that expires, and it's just out of convenience. This methodology, you can see who can do it the fastest, who can do it the cheapest, and give everybody a chance every time you issue a permit to brag about their own experience in that area. So we will be bringing more firms forward, but tonight we're just asking that you allow Laszlo to enter into agreement with Christopher Consultants and AdTech Engineering.
Okay. Comments or questions?
I just have one question. Is Christopher Consultants, are they affiliated with Christopher Companies?
I do not know that. I know that this firm
The home
has
building,
already
right.
put on their price list that they are becoming IMEG. We looked up IMEG, and they are a very large global engineering firm. I think Christopher is going to become their branch for this region, but I'm not sure about the Christopher Companies question you're asking.
Thank you.
I can answer that. They're not the same. Christopher Companies is a developer. Christopher Consultants is an engineering firm.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Dean. Do you have a
You're welcome.
follow-up?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, comments or questions? No? Okay, well, if there's no questions, we'll move on to the staff recommended motion that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign agreements with AdTech Engineers Incorporated and with Christopher Consultants Limited, now IGEM, for on-call engineering services as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Calvin.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 9B, Manassas Park City Library Policy Updates.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the governing body. So we're here to talk about the collection development policy for virtual reality, as well as our virtual reality policy, a slight amendment to it. In the collection development policy, we're just outlining how we select the different experiences that we have for people to try on our virtual reality machines. So things like price, positive reviews, and then purpose, things like informational, cultural, or educational practices are all considered, and so we just wanted to outline that. And then in the other portion, we are amending our usage rules to say that we recommend that VR is used for 12 years or older, and then anyone younger than 8 must be supervised by a parent. I did also want to just point out that we do require everyone to sign a waiver before they can use VR, and if they're under the age of 18, it does require that parent's signature no matter what.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
How do you verify age? Is that through the library card, or do you ask for ID?
No, we just take it on an honor system.
Okay.
Follow up?
Nope.
Go ahead.
My question. So recommended age is 12, and then 8 with a parent guardian.
Just being present there. If they're 9 to 12 and their parent's not there, as long as their parent was there to sign the waiver and
see.
if they're okay, then it's fine.
Yeah, I was saying like maybe 12 and under with a parent, and 12.
Yeah, we can
whatever the
definitely
board
adjust it that
decides.
way if
It was
that's
just
the
The
preference.
gap just felt like a little odd.
We can adjust it to that if that's the preference.
I mean,
What, can you please say that again?
I mean, her recommended age was 12 and up without a parent supervising. So I recommended that 12 and below, instead of 8 below, be parent supervised.
I see. What does the governing body think of that?
Because, I mean, it's just 9, 10, 11, where you going to...
What is your opinion, Holly?
I just had a question.
Go ahead.
So when kids visit from the various public schools, do they also have to have their parents' signature waiver signed, or the teachers
Yes.
play there? The parents have to sign?
The parents have to sign.
Okay. Just wanted to know.
What is your opinion on that?
It really can go either way. I've seen libraries do both ways. This is the common library practice, is for 8 and under, because typically, it's more about, at that point, being able to properly have the headset work for them because they're just too big. So with the parent being there, and then they tend to get a little bit more excited when they're above the age of 8. They tend to understand a little bit better that they need to like stay still and all that. But we can definitely do the 12 if that's the preference. It doesn't make too much of a difference either way.
Okay. What is the governing body preference? I have no preference one way or the
Did the
other.
library board have a preference?
I have no preference either.
They had no preference. Since the waiver is signed by the parent, they felt that that was enough.
So you're just trying to cover the gap between
Can you pull your,
you're just trying to cover the gap between 8 and 12. So it just needs to say 12 and under, they'll have to have supervision.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
are we okay? Yeah, we're in agreement.
Okay. So I'll switch that
Can I
over.
ask you a real quick question? No, is it 12 and under or under 12? Because I thought the other one was 12 and over.
Yeah,
Under
it'd be under 12.
So it'll be under 12, okay.
Yes.
Clarify, thank you.
Yes. So I'll make that change for it to state anyone under 12 must have a parent supervision.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I have one question. I see the word recreational is used. How will you determine what is appropriate? Because recreational could potentially include some inappropriate activity. So what is the standard?
In terms of content,
Yes.
so we always pay attention to the reviews, ratings. They're rated very similar to video games, so we try to make it E for everyone. I think the highest one that we have is a rated T for teen.
Okay, so would that be the equivalent of, say, for example, parental guidance, or what does that equate to?
I'm not sure in which way.
I think what you're, because you're saying E for everyone is usually G
Yeah.
for movies, and then teen would be probably PG or PG-13.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
definitely not R, is what we're saying.
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last.
I said definitely not R-rated.
Okay.
And for the recreational, it tends to be a bit more about movement rather than gun games. It tends to be more about, like golf and baseball and stuff like that
Okay,
through
harmless
VR.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, then the staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve and authorize the Manassas Park City Library to amend the current policy manual to include changes to the library collection development policy 1.4 and the library virtual reality policy 19.2 as outlined in the Manassas Park City Library Policy Manual as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Holly.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay. Okay, moving on to 9C. 9C is a discussion of a request from Panorama Latino Television. And actually, there are two requests here. First, there is a request for financial support like the support that was provided last year. Sponsoring something once does not guarantee continued sponsorship. It doesn't roll over like an IRA. And the second, if the governing body decides to provide another sponsorship, then the decision is needed as to when to provide that funding. So who would like to discuss first?
Laura.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think what concerns me, and I took a look on the website, there was no media guide. And it's been a while since I've done this type of work, but typically, there's something, usually a publication, broadcast or print, has their number about outreach. All of those details to show the value you get for your price. And I did not see that, and that leaves me a little bit concerned.
I'm going to oppose this. I think it's more of a want than a need. I think we have a marketing team here at Parks and Rec that can do this, and they have the skill set to do a smaller version of this, so I'm going to oppose moving forward with this. Thank you.
So that's two in opposition to the.
In opposition,
To the
yes.
sponsorship.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I
Councilor?
know as well. No.
Okay. Can you?
I am a no as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I liked their list of Manassas Park interviews and events that they submitted. My question really, though, that they did not answer was how well was it received? How much was it viewed in Manassas Park? They don't, the lack of like quantitative numbers for that kind of leaves me on the fence. So I'm gonna skip. I'm kind of,
So are you a no? Or you're an uncertain?
I'm uncertain.
Okay, okay. Councilmember Moore?
Uncertain.
Uncertain. Councilmember Javed?
Yeah, I mean, the one-time donation, like you said, was the one time.
Yeah.
Shouldn't roll over, and I think we should have a discussion every time.
Yeah.
I like how this is homegrown, it's Manassas Park, right? I mean, and reaching out to the Hispanic community may not be as easy as, doing mailers, but if they have a different reach, I feel like it might be beneficial. But with that said, I'm going to oppose giving the 3,000 for this year.
Okay.
I was okay with the 1 year to see how they performed and see if they could grow their customer base. But yeah, I think we'd skip this year.
Skip it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also a no, so that means we don't have to even decide on number 2,
No?
which is when? Okay. So that will be no sponsorship. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, would you want to relay that, or do you want me to relay? I know she's been reaching out to both of us.
I'll be happy to.
Okay,
And I
great.
will copy you.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I hope you let them know not to be discouraged. I mean, continue doing what they do for the community.
Oh, I'm sure
Yeah.
they've done it for a good number of years.
Exactly.
And I'm sure they will continue,
Right.
definitely. Okay, so moving on to 9D. 9D is inoperable vehicle ordinance. Is there anything that staff would like to add to this before the vote?
Just that we have a large backlog of cases that we want to start bringing to resolution.
Yeah, okay. Any last-minute questions or comments?
My only recommendation was if the body will consider adding the tarp or the cover for the definition as, what was it?
Inoperable.
Shielded.
Shield, yeah,
Yeah,
shield.
shield.
Okay.
You want to take a consensus, I don't know.
I would say no.
No. It just leads to eyesores and
Yeah,
other issues.
yeah. I don't think it's needed.
No.
No.
No? Yeah.
Abstain.
Okay. Okay, so
Not a big
that's a
issue for
no. Okay, sorry. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay. The motion is that the governing body adopt an ordinance to amend City Code 17-53 as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. 9E, ordinance requiring the mowing of grass and weeds adjacent to sidewalks. Is there anything that staff would like to add? Okay, any last-minute comments or questions from the governing body? No?
Just a
Okay.
clarification, if they decide not to have any grass in that area, sidewalk, they just put a weed killer and just make it brown and dried and ugly, that would be okay.
It's not covered by this ordinance,
No.
if that's your question.
It's not covered yet.
Not covered?
No.
Okay, so they can do that.
They could probably do like they do in the state of Florida. They put like gravel and rocks instead of their lawn.
I've seen
you
that.
know.
That's nice.
Would that be, would they be allowed to do that?
I'd have to look in the code. I don't see anywhere where it prohibits it, but again, I'd have to look into that. I don't know, Calvin, if you've seen anywhere in the code.
I'm not aware of it either.
Yeah, I think we'd have to look at it and get back to you all.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, it doesn't, because what it is going to be the public right of way. It's not going to be a private home ownership
Correct.
over there,
There you go.
right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you gotta find out if they're even allowed to change the landscaping in the public right of way.
That's what we'd have to look into and see what the regulations
Well,
are.
then we might be revisiting this yet again.
Potentially, if we need to protect our property, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, let's go on to the motion that the governing body adopt an ordinance to amend City Code 17-49 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our second public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, we'll move on to city manager's report.
Great. I'll spend most of my time in closed session, but just as an update for Durrani's and La Finca, their building permits now are ready. Calvin and his team have finished their review, so hopefully they'll be picking those up over the next couple weeks and then moving on to the construction phase. Durrani's will be likely quicker in terms of build-out because they don't have a commercial kitchen to deal with, but the hope is still by the end of this year, at least hopefully Durrani's will be open.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. Okay, moving on to closed session. Dean, would you please read us into closed session? Dean?
Take me a second, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to discuss a prospective business where no previous announcement has been made of a business's interest in locating in the city, and to consult with the city attorney regarding the same pursuant to paragraphs 5 and 8 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Okay, all in favor?